Hello, and welcome to the second episode of the True Dollar web series. This year, Texas Trust will be presenting a monthly webinar on Facebook Live every second Tuesday of the month to help our community and members manage their finances better during the tough times we are living in. My name is Washima Huck. I am a business and community engagement partner for Texas Trust, representing the Arlington and Mansfield area, and I will be your moderator today. You are welcome to engage with us by leaving comments or questions during the live session. We will be sure to answer as many questions as we can in the allotted time or get back to you individually. COVID-19 has brought on a lot of change, and with that, a lot of financial stress. As a consequence of this global pandemic, many are left wondering how they should finance their education. Whether you are a current or future college student or the parent of a student, during this hour, our partners HESC and Inspired hope to present you with a few solutions. But before I turn it over to them, I would like to share a little bit about Texas Trust Credit Union. Our mission is to build brighter financial futures, and we have been helping people live brighter since 1936. We are a not-for-profit company. That means we invest profit back into the credit union to help our members and communities by offering higher savings rates, lower loan rates, and through community engagement. Texas Trust has proudly given back over $2 million to partnering school districts as well as UT Arlington through our Spirit Debit Rewards program. To learn more, visit texastrust.give. Now, I would like to introduce our presenters for today, Jessica Delmar with Inspired and Jeff Davis with HESC. Jessica, I will turn it over to you now.
Thank you, Washima. So first, I would like to introduce Jeff Davis. Mr. Davis has over 35 years of sales management and business development experience in the financial services industry. He played a vital role in the growth of the Credit Bureau, TransUnion, and the nonprofit credit counseling agency, Money Management International. His primary responsibilities include sales, marketing, and the identification of market opportunities for HESC's student loan servicing system, also known as Helium, student loan servicing and lending programs. Mr. Davis graduated from Boston University with a degree in economics, and he will be presenting later in our presentation. Okay, and so first, just a little bit about me. My name is Jessica Delmar. I am the Assistant Program Coordinator for Inspired. I've been with Inspired for 2 years, and I am super excited to get to share this information with you today. So first, I want to give you a little background information about Inspired. So Inspired was established 7 years ago by the Higher Education Servicing Corporation, or HESC. And HESC is a private nonprofit student loan servicing organization, and they have worked persistently over the past 40 plus years to ensure that Texas students have access to higher education. And they do that by providing federal and private educational loans, but not just loans, they also offer scholarship funds and outreach services. And so we are the outreach services at Inspired. And right now, Inspired currently serves in 19 schools in our community and employs more than 20 college student mentors through our work study program. So at Inspired, our mission is to inspire students to achieve a higher education by promoting a college-going and career-focused culture. Okay, and so some of our programs that we do, of course, this year has presented a lot of different challenges, and we've taken those on with stride. A lot of our services we are offering virtually, so we've had to adapt this year. But some of the few things that we do offer include ACT, SAT, and TSI registration and test prep, of course, college applications, college prep and FAFSA presentations, college and career events, FAFSA nights, financial literacy. We also have our Go centers that are inside of our local area high schools, job application assistance, major and career exploration. We also help with military, resume assistance, and of course, scholarship search assistance. And so we do all of these things inside of our Go centers, and we help a variety of different students in our community. All right, so first, I would like to talk about financial aid and FAFSA. What is that? So the FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid, and it is a form that high school seniors and college students need to complete in order to qualify for financial aid. Now, when you're completing the FAFSA application, you're applying for more than just student loans. I don't want you to think that when you start this application process, it's just for loans. You can also qualify for federal or state grants, institutional grants and scholarships, federal loans, and work study. So when we talk about paying for college, you can do that in a couple of different ways. You have your income, either from your parents or from yourself, like from your job. We have a savings account that you could pay from. Of course, ideally, we would love for you to get tons of different scholarships so you don't have to pay out of pocket. And then, of course, there's the financial aid, which is what we're going to be talking about today. All right, so before we dive into financial aid, I want to talk about the different types of scholarships that are included with that. So we have our merit-based scholarships, and those are going to be things based off of your achievements, maybe good grades, or some schools even offer like perfect attendance scholarships. The next type of scholarship is going to be performance scholarships. These can be based upon maybe if you're a really good musician and you've made all region like every single year that you've been in high school, things of that nature. The next type of scholarship is need-based, and these are really important to our local community. A lot of people end up receiving need-based scholarships. The next type of scholarship is an athletic scholarship, and I think this one is pretty self-explanatory. You know, if you're really good at sports and you get picked up by a university, most of the time you'll be offered an athletic scholarship. And of course, there's other types of scholarships as well, and they don't just end with like grade-based or performance-based or athletic-based. There's scholarships out there for everyone, so I highly encourage you to look and seek out what is unique to you and then apply to that scholarship. Okay, so this page, if you are watching and you have your cell phone near you, I highly suggest you take a picture of this or a screenshot. This is going to be your ticket to researching a vast amount of scholarship resources. So we have a bunch of different ones here. Personally, my favorite is reaching out to your school clubs or your employers' parents, employers or your parents' employers. So like if you work for Taco Bell, Taco Bell is really well known for providing scholarships to their workers. So reach out to wherever you work, see if the company is offering any sorts of scholarships. Also to your parents' employers. So if your parent has been with the company for a while and you've grown up kind of in front of the company's eyes, they might throw you like maybe $1,000 or $2,000 scholarship. It never hurts to ask. So please, if you haven't already, take a picture of this, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next slide. Okay, so financial aid. Financial aid is a really broad topic and it covers a lot of different things. So there's different types of financial aid and we're going to discuss that. So we have our federal financial aid. And when you think of federal, think of like the whole US government. So the federal financial aid offers you three different types of financial aid. They have loans, which you do have to pay back. Grants, which you don't have to pay back, and then work study, which they award you an amount of money and you work towards that, but you don't have to pay that back. So the next type of financial aid that's available are institutional grants. And these are things that vary based upon whatever school you may be going to. So it doesn't matter what school you're going to, whether that's like a trade school or a community college or, you know, a traditional four-year university, your institution will offer some type of grant to help you. That might come with like an application process, but they are usually available. All you have to do is ask. And so the next type of financial aid is going to be state financial aid. And so that there are three different types of the state financial aid. And so that includes loans, grants, and work study. And again, loans you do have to pay back. And then the grants and the work study, you don't have to pay back. Okay. So the next thing that I want to go over is some financial aid myth busters. And these are some that I think are really important because we get questions about them all the time. So here's the myth. Federal student aid is just quote unquote free money like grants. The truth is that federal student aid includes three different types of financial help, right? So we have grants, which are free money, low interest loans, and work study funds. And like I mentioned in the previous slide, the loans you do eventually have to pay back once you're done with school. And the work study funds, you don't have to pay back, but you do have to work for those. My next myth is only students with good grades get financial aid. And the truth is, most federal student aid programs don't consider your GPA scores. So if you were a not so decent student in high school and maybe you made some C's and some B's, that's okay. They're not going to look at your GPA scores. Okay, and so my next myth is my family makes too much money to qualify for aid. I get this one all the time. It doesn't matter how much your family makes, you still need to fill out the FAFSA. Family income is just one of the factors that determines how much aid you can receive. And unless your family is just super duper well off and they have the money to pay for your college outright, you may still need to fill out the FAFSA for loans. Also, too, a lot of schools still require you to fill out the FAFSA because it sends them important financial information from you and your family. My next myth is financial aid applications take too long to complete. So I often laugh at this one. Just because I think it's a little silly, but you know, the FAFSA application is kind of a necessary evil. Once all the necessary materials are gathered, like your tax documents and things of that nature, filling out the application only takes about 30 minutes or so. And the really awesome thing is that once you fill it out once, when you come back your freshman year of college to fill it out again, it takes even less time. So I love to tell my students this: invest that 30 minutes in yourself, and I promise you'll be forever grateful for it, especially for the opportunities that it's going to give you to go to school. Okay, so just a couple of quick facts about the FAFSA. So in order to start your FAFSA application, you have to create an FSA ID for the student and your parent. Now, if your parent has ever filled out the FAFSA application for themselves, they're going to use that same information that they use for themselves for the student's application. And so to create your FSA ID, you're going to need your social security number, an email, a phone number possibly, and then your name. Okay, so number 2, be aware of college priority deadlines. This is super important, especially for my higher achieving students that want to get into those really prestigious schools. double check and then triple check the college priority deadlines for your applications and for your FAFSA. And number 3, never ever pay to get your FAFSA filled out. It's free. Like, free is in the name of FAFSA. So never pay for it. And FAFSA has a ton of resources on their website that you can use to get the help that you need. They have a chat feature. They also have hotlines for different various specific reasons you might need help, like if you're having issues with creating your FSA ID or if you need help with the FAFSA form itself. Number 4, you do not have to complete the FAFSA all at once. Save and update the info later. So if you want to go ahead and get started on your FAFSA application, you can do that. And then once you get to the parent information, you can stop, save it, collect your tax documents, and come back to it. It's not one of those things where you have to sit down and complete it all at once. Number 5, use the IRS data retrieval process for quicker completion. If you qualify to use the IRS data retrieval tool, I highly suggest you do so. It links directly with the IRS, and so it'll pull all of your information for you, and that just saves you so much time. Number 6, if you're a dependent student per FAFSA, you must provide parental information. So while you're filling out the FAFSA form, it's going to ask you a series of questions to determine whether you're a dependent student or an independent student. And so if the FAFSA qualifies you as a dependent student, you have to show your parents' information. And sometimes that can be a little tricky with certain situations, but we have ways, and we can definitely help you figure out what's the next step if you are needing that information. Okay, so there are 7 steps total to the FAFSA process. I'll go over these quickly. I don't want to get too deep into them. But the first part of the FAFSA form is going to be student demographics. That just means like your first name, your last name, your address. The second part of the FAFSA is your school selection. This is where you're going to put the schools that you're interested in going to. So maybe, your community college you're interested in, your safety school, your reach school, and then your dream school. That's usually what I recommend that you put into your school section. You can put up to 10 schools in that section, and if you need to add more, what you'll do is you'll complete your the whole entire FAFSA application, and then save it, let it process, and then once you're processed completely, you can go back in and add more if you need to. The third step is going to be the dependency status. And so that was the questions that I was talking about earlier. It's going to ask you some questions and declare whether you're a dependent student or an independent student. Step number 4 is going to be parent demographics. So same as step number 1, but just info from your parents. Number 5 is going to be financial information. So in this section is going to be where you, the student, would put your financial information if you have any. And this will be also too where the parents would put their information as well. Section number 5 is also where you can link to the IRS data retrieval tool if you need to or if you're eligible to. Step number 6 is sign and submit. You're almost done when you get to this step. And then step number 7 is the confirmation. So normally after you submit your FAFSA application, it takes about 5 to 7 business days for the Department of Education to fully process it, make sure everything checks out. And then you will get an email alerting you that it's been processed, and you can take a look at your student aid report. Okay, so what is your student aid report or your SAR? So firstly, the FAFSA is submitted and the SAR will be sent in about a week if you'd entered in an email address, which you should have done that. So, and then the information from your student aid report will be sent to every single college that you put in on my earlier step, on step number 2 in your school selection. So all the schools you put in there, even if you put in Harvard, Brown, any school that you put will get that information. Your college may request additional information once they receive your student aid report. And so once they get that, they will reach out to you through your student email. So even if you're not accepted to the school that you applied to, you'll still get a student email. And so you need to check your student email and make sure you're turning in all of your documents to make sure they're not waiting on you for the approval process. And then number 4, your application is reviewed, and once completed by your college, you will receive a financial aid award letter. So make sure that you get all of those steps done. You want to make sure that you get your award letter and you know how much money you are getting for school and what you might need to make up for in the long run. Okay, so I think this slide is super important, especially right now in the world of COVID. So special circumstances and verification. So the special circumstances, the special circumstances form is a place for families to share with an institution the special circumstances that are impacting their ability to pay for college. So every university, community college will have this form, and you can retrieve it at the financial aid office of your institution. And so it is specifically called the special circumstances form. And basically what you do is, even though the taxes from this year might look a little funny, or there might be like vastly different than years in the past, depending on your circumstances at home, this form allows you to say, hey, things have changed. I need to update my financial information because my taxes that I used in my 2019 taxes that I used for my FAFSA application, I'm not making that money anymore. My parents aren't making that money anymore. So this form allows you to fill that out, tell them what's going on, and someone, like a real human being, will look at it and say, okay, this is what's going on, let's adjust their award. It's not always guaranteed that it'll go in your favor, but I highly suggest that you do this, especially if you've been affected adversely from COVID or anything really that's changed your financial situation. So appealing for more financial aid depends on how well a family and student can present the college financial aid office the adequate documentation of special circumstances. So of course, like if you submit this form, they're going to ask for some proof for that. And then verification is the process the Institute uses to verify the information that you provided on the FAFSA. So if you get selected for verification, you're not in trouble, nothing is wrong. They just want to confirm the information that you put on your FAFSA application. And usually the rule of thumb is if you get asked to be verified at one school that you applied to, then chances are you're going to be asked to be verified at all of the other schools that you applied to as well. Okay, so resources for verification and appeals. I highly suggest that you take a screenshot or grab your phone and take a picture of this. These are really awesome resources. The first one, it helps guide you through the financial aid appeals, step by step. Really awesome. And then number 2, help writing a financial aid appeal letter. In this Form Swift, I've actually been on a few of their webinars. Fantastic, really amazing resource. And I'm going to be using this a lot with my students this year and next year. Okay, and so if there aren't any questions for what I've gone over so far, I am going to go ahead and hand this over to Jeff.
Thank you, Jessica. That was a lot of territory you covered in a short period of time. I'd like to just take a much smaller view of the things that you all need to be thinking about when you're pursuing, looking at the questions on how to finance college. First, I would like to thank Texas Trust for giving us the opportunity to present to you this afternoon about financing college during these COVID times. The good news is that as we get into it, there is a lot of information that we'll be sharing about one piece, one additional piece of the overall puzzle, that being private student loans that can help you fill that gap. But COVID or no COVID, the process for applying for a private student loan is the same. So if you're familiar with the process, it hasn't changed at all. For those who are looking forward to doing it, it's always been pretty much an online process. So that has not changed. So you've all been listening to all the great advice that Jessica shared. You have been taking notes and you're ready to do your research. You've picked out the college that you want. You've done all the work necessary. You've checked all the financial aid boxes. You've looked at federal loans. You've looked at scholarships. You've looked at savings. But no matter how much you've worked at it, you're still falling short of being able to meet the costs of that college that you want to go to. Well, private loans can help fill that gap. It's a viable solution. So one thing to keep in mind, though, when you're thinking about private loans is that they are different from federal student loans. The primary difference is that the lender is going to be looking at your credit, and they're going to be looking at whether you have income or not. So I don't know about those of you in the audience that are attending high school, but I know that when I was attending high school a long time ago, I didn't have any kind of a credit record, and I didn't have much income at that time either. So I would make the assumption that that's probably similar for many high schoolers out there even today. That's why it's important when you're applying for student loans, undergraduate student loans, to have a cosigner, because the lenders will be looking not only at your credit situation and income, but they'll also be looking at the cosigner's credit and income. Applying with a cosigner will improve your chances for being able to, first of all, get approved for the loan. But the interest rate charged on student loans is largely dependent on credit score. So the better the credit score, the better the interest rates you'll be getting on your student loan. Next slide. So before I jump into what to look for in private student loans, I just wanted to say a word about where you can look for student loans. Now, believe it or not, most banks and credit unions don't offer student loans. If you happen to be a member of a credit union that does offer student loans, that's an excellent place to start. For those of you who want to do research online, there's a vast number of options for private student loans online. So how do you sort the good from the bad? That's what I'd like to spend a few minutes on. The first question is, do they offer competitive rates or just teaser rates? A teaser rate is when somebody advertised a low rate that seems too good to be true. Quite often those rates are for the very highest credit band, for the most credit-worthy people out there. And it's important to understand whether the rates that they offer across all credit bands are in fact competitive as well. Do they charge fees? Standard practice in the industry today is that fees are not charged. So if you do see fees being charged, it's just something to be cautious about before you pursue it. One side note on that is that Parent Plus loans are offered by the government, a loan to the parent that can also help fill that gap. But one thing about Parent Plus loans is that they do have fees attached to them. And in most cases, the rates offered on Parent Plus loans, they can be higher than private student loans. So a private student loan is a good option. Some of these other things like multiple repayment terms or deferment, these are things that are very similar to other types of loans. Obviously, if you want to have your payment extended out over a longer period of time, the monthly payment will be shorter, but you wind up paying more in the long run. If you have the means and want to make it a shorter term, you have the opportunity to do so. Deferment allows you to defer your first payment until you've graduated from school, which is an important thing if you're planning on paying off your loan. You'd like to have more income. The deferment option gives you the chance to do that. Are similar to the multiple repayment option. You'll also see fixed and variable rates with other types of loans. On student loans, you want to make sure that those options are available to you as well. If you believe that rates are as low as they're going to get and they're going to begin to go back up, take a fixed rate. If you think rates are low and they're staying low or going down, opt for a variable rate. Those are two options that you want to make sure are available. Are there any additional discounts available? In the student loan world, they do have additional discounts that you won't find with other loan products. One of the discounts available is for automated payment or ACH. And most creditors, most lenders in the student loan area offer about a 1/4 point discount for automated payments. Some lenders will also offer an additional 1/4 point discount for successful graduation. So you want to be looking for those types of benefits as well. The next thing you want to look for, do they offer borrower protections? Do they offer loan forgiveness in the case of borrower disability or death? And those options are available for many of the private student lenders. Then finally, when you're doing your research, look and see what kind of additional resources do they offer. Do they have resources in the local community like Inspired here in our local community? Or do they have a robust website that provides you additional information on student loans or a variety of financial wellness topics? A lot of the private student loan lenders do have some information, but I would suggest that you check on that as well. Why don't we go to the next slide? So it feels so brief after all that information that Jessica was able to share. Such a small amount of information, you'll all be able to remember this. When you're looking for student loans during these COVID times, the process again is no different from before the pandemic. Do your research, and when you're ready to apply, it's all done online. Beginning the application process is simple. I have on the bottom of this page here put a link, and it's to the Texas Trust site where you can apply for a student loan. Once you've decided that you're ready, you simply go to this site, scroll down, you'll see an apply here box. You click there, and that will take you right over to the application process, which again can be done in as little as 15 minutes. You'll know whether you've been approved credit-wise within a couple of minutes. So obviously, one of the examples of an excellent choice for a private student loan would be the Texas Extra Credit Loan offered by Higher Education Servicing Corporation. As mentioned before, we've served hundreds of thousands of students and families here in the local community. We're located in Arlington. We're actually right across the street from Texas Trust. And we've been partnered for Texas Trust for many years. So it's a reliable source for finding private student loans. Visit the website, visit our website, and I think a lot of the questions that you may have will be answered in that process. So that's all that I have to share with you on private loans today. But Texas Trust also just asked me to say a couple words about federal student loans because it's been in the news quite a bit. I'm sure none of you have missed that. If you have a federal student loan today, you know that, or you're aware of the fact that the Biden administration has opted to extend the time frame for the relief, the COVID relief, out to September 30th. So if that happens to be the best choice of action for you, to delay payment at this time, you can do so through that time period, and I'm sure we'll be updated along the way as to whether there'll be any extensions beyond that. There's another point that's in the news quite a bit, and that's the cancellation of student loans. And as far as that issue is concerned, I don't unfortunately have a crystal ball on that one. Many of you in the audience probably know as well as I do of all the gyrations occurring in Washington, D.C. today. So it's important that you stay abreast of the news, that you understand what's happening. But what I'd like to do is direct you to one of the links here, studentaid.gov. It's the federal government site. It's an excellent resource for you on anything that has to do with federal loans. So if you're just getting into the process, make sure you familiarize yourself with that site as well. So at this point, I'd like to thank you and turn it back over to Jessica to review some of the other resources that were on that page. If you can go back to the earlier page. Thanks. Jessica? You're on mute.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so some of the other resources that I would like to discuss, we have yourgocenter.com, and earlier in the presentation, I explained to you a little bit about what a Go Center is. You can find all resources for your next step after high school graduation at yourgocenter.com. The next resource I have on this list is FAFSA.gov, and you can go to this website and start your FAFSA application or finish it. But please check out the FAFSA.gov if you have not completed your FAFSA application already. And Jeff briefly touched on the studentaid.gov. The next website I want to talk about is collegeforalltexans.com. This website is super amazing. It lists a bunch of information for scholarships, FAFSA information, but it also houses the TASFA application. And the TASFA application is for my undocumented students. So you're not left in the dust. If you are an undocumented student, then the TASFA application will be for you. And you can find out more information on collegeforalltexans.com. And then the very last website is inspiredoutreach.org. And that's our website. You can find a bunch of information on there about who we are, the services that we offer, and more information about our programs and the schools that we serve. So if any of these websites are piquing your interest, I highly recommend you take a screenshot or grab your phone and take a picture. And with that, I just wanted to say thank you so much to Texas Trust for letting HESC and Inspired be a part of the True Dollar web series. I'm going to hand it back over to Washima.
Sorry, we're having slight technical difficulties. Just give us 2 seconds. All right, we are back. Sorry about that. You know, technology these days. So thank you, Jessica and Jeff. Both of you have been very amazing. You've provided us with a lot of useful information. A lot of our viewers are saying the same thing. I personally wish I had this information about a decade ago, back when I was in this process myself. So we really appreciate you. We do have a few questions, but I would also like to encourage our viewers who are still on to ask us, Texas Trust, Inspired, or HESC, any questions they may have. We'll try to answer as many of them as we can in the given time or get back to you individually after the webinar is over. There may be questions that are best answered offline, and we'll be sure to direct message you if your question is something like that. So my first question is, does getting a scholarship impact getting a student loan?
I'll take this question. The simple answer is no. Scholarships have no impact on your ability to receive a loan. Now, with your financial aid award letter that you get from your institution, the scholarships and grants, those two things will be taken off of your total amount due first. And then the leftover amount, if you are eligible to receive a student loan, you have to sign some documents and promissory notes and things of that nature. And then that amount will roll over into your student loan.
Awesome, thank you. My second question is, should we apply for FAFSA before or after applying for college?
That's a great question. So the FAFSA application opens every year on October 1st. And so I highly recommend that you do your FAFSA application as soon as it opens, but it's not necessary to have your FAFSA application finished in order for you to apply to school. Most priority deadlines for the highly sought after schools are usually like in mid-November, early December timeframe. So you should definitely have your FAFSA done before then.
Great, thank you. And my final question is the parent responsible for all 4 years of college, or can the student be responsible at some point? I'm sure a lot of parents have this question.
So I'd like to ask a clarifying question. When you say responsible, do you mean like responsible for like the monetary needs of the child or the student, excuse me, or the FAFSA application?
I believe they mean the monetary needs of the child.
Okay. Yeah. So monetarily, I would say no. There's lots of different ways that you can that your college journey, that you can make it like as affordable as possible. One of the things that I like to recommend, and this was my personal pathway through my college career, I went to a community college for as long as I could, honestly, because the community colleges are so affordable. And most of the times you get money back from your FAFSA and you don't have to pay for books out of pocket or technology, things of that nature, because you're getting money back from your FAFSA to help pay for those things. I did community college for as long as I possibly could. And then what I did is I busted my butt and got really good grades so I could get scholarships to go on to my transfer university that I went to. And so because of that, I have hardly any loans that I'm having to pay back. So I think that is definitely like a family by family basis and a conversation that the family needs to have with the student and vice versa.
Well, Shima, let me just add something to Jessica's information there. If the question was specific to a loan, if it's a co-signed loan, then the parent does carry responsibility for repayment of the loan. Obviously, the ideal situation is that the student, the main borrower, is making the payments on the loan through the life of the loan. But there is the contractual obligation of the co-signer as well.
And to your point, I do have one final question. Can the student apply on their own without a parent co-signing on the loan?
Absolutely. The question again will be, do you have the credit history? Do you have a good credit history? If you got a good credit score, if you have any income, if your debts aren't too high, you know, there's other things that go into the application process, but if you feel that you've got good credit score and income, I would encourage you to do so. If for any reason you're unsuccessful in getting the loan, you can always go back and apply with a co-signer. So I would encourage that person, that individual that feels confident that they can do it, to do so.
Great, that is great advice. Well, I don't see any more questions. So that concludes our Q&A session. We would encourage you to review the resources provided, visit those links. If you have any more questions, you're also welcome to reach out to Texas Trust. So if you would like to learn more, become a member, talk to us directly, please feel free to contact us using the information on the screen. Like Jessica has been saying, you're welcome to screenshot this slide. We also have some links posted in the comments for if you would like to schedule an appointment or have one of us give you a call. Mark your calendars. Our next Facebook Live webinar will be on Tuesday, March 9th at noon. You'll get to hear from mortgage and business sales manager Scott Meggs about buying or refinancing a home during COVID. This will be a great webinar for first-time homebuyers, sellers, or anyone considering a home refinance. Well, that is all we have for today. Thank you so much for tuning into today's webinar. And remember, Texas Trust Credit Union is here with you every step of the way for all of your financial needs. See you next time.